It is 7:11 and we have a quorum, so we will go ahead and get this meeting kicked off. Item number one on the agenda is the application for our potential new member, Gabby, who has joined us this evening. And again, welcome. I did send up a favorable recommendation to Susan for the select board to appoint her as a member. And I did not see any action on that on the August 4th meeting. So I don't know if they still have one on the calendar for the 18th yet or not. So we will have to see what happens there. Okay. Item number two is, it says Pratt Pond Scenario 2 review, and Gabby, for a little bit of background. We have set up a cyanobacteria monitoring protocol for Kiwanis Beach. Every Monday morning, I go down there and I take water samples that we send off to Northeast Labs down in Connecticut, and they do an analysis for cyanobacteria counts. The state recommendations are to close the pond if the cyanobacteria counts exceed 70,000 cells per liter, or 70,000 parts per billion. We also take samples where we're doing a rapid test using Abraxas test strips. It's basically a litmus paper type of test. There's procedures that have to be followed to run the tests, which are pretty interesting. And the state also has minimums for the three things we're testing for: microcystins, and I just absolutely brain locked, Anatoxin A, and Cylindrospermopsin. So those are the three things we're testing. We have had one of those three that came close to being above the detection limits on the test strip, but all of the others have come in well below limits where the state would say, hey, you've got a problem going on here. The idea behind this is to help avoid shutting Pratt Pond down for use. Pratt Pond is where everybody goes to swim. Pratt Pond is where everybody goes to fish. Pratt Pond is where everybody goes boating. And it gets expensive every time we have to shut the pond down. The past couple of weeks have been a little bit challenging because the pond has been open one day during the past couple of weeks. But it's been really interesting because it's given us lots of opportunities to, follow the protocol and run the tests and see what we come up with. Built in. Would you like me to send you a copy of the protocol so you can understand everything that I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I will do that. But we do all this testing and we provide that information to the Board of Health and the Recreation Commission. We don't get to make the decision on whether the pond is open or not. We're just a clearinghouse for the information. Most of that comes from the Board of Health. They're the ones that make the final determination. And so far, it's been my experience that the protocol, the way we wrote it, it's working really well. And our first experience with it 2 weeks ago, just about everybody here on the committee had their fingers in helping run that first series of that first algae bloom. And what I want from the other committee members is your feedback on things we can tweak and tune and improvements that we can make to it. If I could ask right now what your impressions are of the protocol since we've been living it real life over the past couple of weeks.
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense to do like to take samples frequently and like send them back. Like, I think, I mean, I guess because we don't have much say in what they do with the information. Um, but I mean, would we be able to put in place like a like reactionary kind of like something to do with the results, or is it kind of just like it's fully out of our hands?
We give them the results. I have a spreadsheet that when we get the results from the lab or the uh, Abraxas test strips have incubated, I put the results on this spreadsheet and I share it with the Board of Health and the Recreation Committee.
Hmm.
Um, so they're getting that information, and
Yeah.
it's pretty simple to follow. I mean, we're following a stoplight model. It's either green, yellow, or red.
Hmm.
Uh, when I send you the results with the spreadsheet on it, you'll see one of the samples is in red. When we had the pond shut down last week, um, most of the mat that had broken up was being blown onto the shoreline on Hopkinton Road. I happen to live on Hopkinton Road. I live right on the pond.
Hmm.
So I took samples off of my dock, and that's where we got 200,000 cells per liter, which is, you know, like 3 times the state's allowable amount. The samples taken at the beach were well below the magic number,
Right.
because of where the prevailing wind was. And MDPH, our Board of Health, they also liaison with the Mass Department of Public Health and sharing our results with them to help make the determination on whether the pond can stay open or the pond needs to be closed. The past
Hmm.
couple of weeks, and the timing has been really awful because the blooms seem to be happening on Fridays now. Well, the mat breakup seems to be happening on Friday. The town hall closes at noon, uh, and Northeast Labs, they're closed on weekends. So even if we got a sample to Northeast Labs Friday morning, getting a determination from our Board of Health and MDPH might be a little challenging because it's, who wants to work Friday afternoon?
Hmm.
I certainly don't. Uh, But I would like to get some feedback um, and observations from the other members. Go ahead, Lori.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we
Okay,
can
yeah.
hear you.
At my last meeting was a lot of feedback, but I figured out if I just use the phone and don't turn on any of the microphones, it looks like it's going to be okay. What happened, Gabby, was on 2 Friday mornings ago that looked like algae broken up in little pieces at least by the beach. And we've noticed in our testing for a year or so that at the 12-foot level, it looked like there was a mat. And then last year it broke up all over the pond. And then this year we didn't see it until last Friday. And then all the testing happened. The Abraxas strip, by the time we went down there, it was dissolved. And the numbers that came back were very low. I think the highest number was 1,600. So last year it got as high as 5 or 7,000, but it never get anywhere near 70,000, and that's the concerning point.
Hmm.
Then, so because it was a weekend, and because we then take a sample and go to Northeast Labs, which some people from our committee drive all the way to Connecticut to get that information, the beach got open because the levels were low. That's where we get the numbers from. The beach was open on Wednesday. In the past, without this protocol, from that Friday, we'd have been closed for probably 2.5 weeks. So that's what
Right.
this is keeping happening. And then, so we're open Wednesday, we're open Thursday. Beautiful Wednesday night. It was at the concert. Everyone's in the water. It was like, oh, we have hamburgers and hot dogs. We have the beer tent. We have everything up and going on. And then Friday morning, the beach director saw it again. And so they had to close it. It's the weekend again. The sample goes down Monday. We'll probably hear by Wednesday. But the good thing about this is even though we're being closed in most of 2 weeks, it would have been a minimum of that. And then in past years, the levels were never high. So it was closed all that time for no reason. So one of the other byproducts that this is good about is there's a lot more information for people to find out. We're working really well with the Board of Health and RecCom. So like Dave says, we get to do the testing, Board of Health makes the decision, and RecCom has to decide what to do about the camp and voting and that sort of thing. So it's much better than it used to be. And I just kind of want to give you that background so you'd have a little more sense of where we've been. And the state approved our protocol, which was almost surprising. And now they're offering it to other towns who want to look at what they can do to not be closed so much when it's not necessary. We've had all these years where we closed and it was never necessary. So even though it looks difficult, we have a handle on it and it's well tested and the protocol is accepted. So it's good.
So we're giving RecCom and the Board of Health some good science. It's something as a committee we should not necessarily pat ourselves on the back for, but we've delivered a good product in my estimation. Tying in with that is item number 3 on the agenda, and that's revisions to the protocol. I have been making some running revisions to it as we go along, because one of the things we found, and Bill, I think you had alluded to this with the Abraxas test strips, the overview page that it gives you says do this, 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 and store it between 2 and 30 degrees Celsius. And in the body of the instructions, it recommends refrigerating the open test kits, which we hadn't done for the week. So I've been doing some deep dives into the instructions, and I'm creating work instructions to go along with the protocol and trying to cover all these bases. We haven't exceeded the limits on any of the test strips yet. We've come close with one, but we have not exceeded any of the limits where it's beyond the testing of the test strips, which leads to the next step in the testing, which is having water samples analyzed for precise numbers of the different cyanotoxins. And I didn't figure any of that into the budget, which is something that, we can worry about next year. And speaking of next year, after this season, I want to hand this protocol off lock, stock, and hubcap to either the Board of Health or RecCom combined. I don't think we want to own this as a committee. Any opinions on that?
Why?
It's a lot of work. And it's for the benefit of the Recreation Committee and the Board of Health to take this over and run it. We can certainly assist with it because we've got, we have a lot of corporate knowledge and expertise in doing it. But again, this is more for the benefit of the Recreation Committee and the Board of Health to help them monitor the activities at the beach.
So you're suggesting that health members go down there and do the testing?
Yeah. They get the samples, they send them on down to, I have 2 styrofoam coolers that I inherited from where I used to work. And I've been using them kind of in a round robin fashion. I will donate them to the town. They will have the shippers to ship the samples down to Northeast Labs. Let them do some legwork for something that's going to directly benefit the RecCom and the Board of Health. Just my thinking. and let them worry
Oh,
about running same-day
are we-
samples down there.
Will we do the other water quality testing that you've been doing right along?
Oh, well, yes, we will continue on with the routine water quality monitoring that we're doing in Pratt and in Wildwood, and when we can get in there in Mill Pond. The water, it's been very tough to get into Mill Pond at all. And to give you a little more background on that, Gabby, over the past 3 seasons, 24, 25, yeah, this is we have been taking routine water quality samples, testing for phosphorus and iron, and looking at algae samples at different depths. And doing this water quality sampling has led us to what we believe is that mat of cyanobacteria that's in Pratt Pond. It usually shows up at the 12-foot level, and looking at a bathymetric map of Pratt Pond, the 12-foot level covers most of the pond. So this mat, if it exists, and I'm pretty sure it does, could be huge. And kind of circling back to the protocol again, it raises the questions of our next steps on this, because over the past 2 years, we have had major breakups of this benthic map. It has closed the pond, and we get some really huge bacteria numbers. So the next steps are, how do we map it, and how do we recommend to the town, or what do we recommend to the town that they need to treat it? And anybody have any insights?
I guess I'm worried because not one person from the Board of Health, except Matt's been involved at all. None of the others have gotten involved in any of the testing. Maybe that's your concern. You feel that they should. And the other thing is, so we budgeted, Gabby, to have people go down with cameras and try and get a picture of the size of the mat. And apparently we got the money, but they're too busy to do it. So we have to find something else. And it's all in our budget. So Dave, if we weren't doing this, this would go away from our budget and somebody else would have to assume it, I guess, like the Board of Health.
Mostly just the cyanobacteria protocol. The mat mapping, I think that we can still have that. Mike, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Well, one thing, just I think what might be a possibility is to have the RecCom Board of Health actually train one of their staffers to run this protocol. I personally, elected boards, I don't know that, I'm not sure they're going to want to do a lot of footwork. Maybe the Board of Health would want to get their feet wet, literally, but I doubt it. So I would suggest that this protocol be operated by one of the seasonal staffers at the pond, that the Rec Commission hires and trains that person, and we could train a person, and along with the Board of Health to do that next year.
I know
I always
Chris
thought-
Murphy. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Chris Murphy from RecCom. He has been running a lot of the Abraxas test strips for us.
Yeah.
And I believe he was an aquatic biologist or something along those lines, because he's alluded to it a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not aquatic. No, but I would like him to be on the Board of Health, and he maybe would be interested in that in May when Laura's term is up, is the possibility. He expressed interest in being on the Board of Health a long time ago when he was still working. He said, I'll do it when I retire. And then she had already taken out papers and she wouldn't step back. So he did RecCom and he finds he likes it, So I don't know if he's willing to do it, but I know that was his intention because he is a biologist and he's like a microbiome type biologist.
I think he's actually having fun with,
Yes.
staying on top of this thing. But yeah, he's been a great asset, and the guy is smart. The guy is smart.
He was
But-
right on our corner.
Yeah, but it's it's tedious running this thing. It's tedious running this thing.
You know, there's other scientists on the Board of Health. There's two others. There's Laura Head, but there's also a nurse and a biotech type scientist.
Yeah, the I can't think of her name. The
Maria?
nurse who's no,
Oh,
Maria's on
Farrell.
rec. Yeah,
Farrell.
Farrell and Quinn on the Board of Health. I don't know what their availability is for, you know, really for any of that stuff because they have young kids and they, you know, that takes up a lot of your time. So, but I still kind of believe that this belongs with somebody else, not with lakes, ponds, and streams. You know, we developed it for them. I would be more than happy to hand it off to them. Just my personal
like-
feelings.
Water quality testing, though. Seems like water quality testing.
This is targeted testing. It's looking for one specific thing in pretty much one specific location. And kind of tying in with all of that, moving on, is the presentation that TRC is going to do for the Phase 2 project. I got an email from Anna Chase at TRC today. They've pretty much agreed to everything that we discussed at our July meeting as far as the dates go. They're okay with doing a remote presentation on the 10th, on September 10th. The one change that they recommended was the comment period, Mike, that you had recommended closing on the 18th. They liked that, and they would like to have the only change that they requested was having any comments received consolidated and put in a spreadsheet format for them by the 25th, which I can live with that. That gives us a week, and I don't know how many comments and things like that we're going to be getting from. And then they would get us the finished product by the end of the contract date in the middle of October. So we're getting close to wrapping that thing up, which is good.
You want to tell Gabby what that is?
The TRC Phase 2, and this goes back to the very early days of our committee. TRC is a company out of Waltham, and they did a study on Pratt, looking at water quality issues. They took sediment samples. They did water quality testing, which we kind of took on as, as the committee testing for a lot of the things that they were looking at. And Phase 2 is another deep dive into what they found in Phase 1 and making possible recommendations for what to do with the pond as far as weed control and the benthic mat that we're talking about, and some of the dams and spillways and stormwater runoff. There's a lot of stuff involved in it, and I believe there's a draft copy on the Lakes, Ponds, and Streams website if you'd like to see the Phase 2 draft copy. So my next steps is to go to Kathleen Byrne in the town clerk's office, and we need to get a notification out to the various stakeholders. We have Conservation Commission, Board of Health, RecCom, the Select Board, the Town Manager, DPW, to let them know that this meeting is going to happen, because they all have interests in what happens in and around Pratt Pond. And it's all going to be open to the general public as well, because again, it's a public waterway. So the townsfolk have kind of a vested interest in Pratt Pond. So, but that pencil that in on your calendars for September 10th at 7 p.m. It'll be a remote meeting. And kind of, I mentioned DPW. Anybody have any further word on the concern that was raised about the boating regulations and the signage? I know, Bill, that you had done some research on that, and I believe you actually located the physical sign.
Yes, and I found a news article that described when the Board of Selectmen enacted them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so the Board of Selectmen sometime in 1988 or 89 enacted those regulations. They did add one later, and that was to specifically call out jet skis, because originally it just simply referred to watercraft, personal watercraft.
Personal watercraft. And yeah, that struck me as kind of funny being on there twice, because I think the first one was no personal watercraft, and then later down in the body of it is no jet skis.
Right, right. That was added just to make it completely explicit that they were also outlawing jet skis. Now, I think both, because jet skis are considered personal watercraft,
Yes.
are also prohibited by state law, regardless.
Really?
Yep, yep. So Pratt Pond is a great pond,
Correct.
and as a great pond, it is in effect owned by the state for the benefit of the Commonwealth.
Right.
And so they can establish laws governing actions on it. And in fact, if the town wants to create regulations, they have to get them approved by the relevant state authority.
Oh, really?
So, for example, if they wanted to allow float planes, they'd have to talk to the state board that governs float planes.
Sort of like on Monpont Pond down in Hanson.
Yeah, exactly. So in any case, it does not appear to me that when the Board of Selectmen enacted the things in the 80s, they went and got them approved by the state.
The question in the back of my head, and this kind of goes to the recent incident at Lake Maspinock over in Hopkinton. Maspinock is 6 times the size of Pratt, and yet their launch ramp is for Hopkinton residents only. So one of the things that we wound up having to take the sign down for was because the sign said Upton residents only. If Hopkinton can have a residents only boat ramp, why can't Upton have a residents only boat ramp?
Well, that would probably be a function of the status of Lake Maspinock. That may be a private body of water, in which case you can do whatever you damn well please with it.
Okay.
So we'd have to investigate that. I don't know if one way or another whether or not Lake Maspinock is a great pond. If it is, I do not think that they can do that. They may have done it without authority.
Well, it's 243 acres. I used to
Well, I
live
understand
on.
it's much bigger than Pratt Pond, and it would certainly meet the definition of a great
Of a great
pond if
pond,
it did not have another status,
Ah,
a superseding status.
okay. Rules and regulations make everything complicated.
Isn't
But as
Whitehall-
far as regulations for Pratt Pond, ultimately, I believe it becomes the role of the select board to establish them, consulting with the residents. And then they would need to go get them approved by the appropriate state entity.
Lori, you want to say something?
I was thinking about Woodville, the pond there. They have a boat launch as well, but that's a reservoir also. which I
That
never
is,
They Wood Pond Reservoir,
that's Whitehall Reservoir, yes.
Whitehall, yeah. But Maspinock is saying, where is the boat launch on Maspinock?
It's over by the beach. There's a small parking lot. They can probably park half a dozen boat trailers and say 30 cars. They probably have parking for like 30 cars and a half a dozen trailers. And it's right next to the access to Sandy Beach.
Oh, so you go past the water, you go into the Hopkins side, then you take that right?
If you take the right onto Downey Street and you follow Downey all the way to the end, you turn left or turn right on, I think it's First Avenue, and that takes you down to where the boat ramp and Sandy Beach is.
Okay. Right.
Uh, I know the state has a car top boat launch on Maspinock, and it's almost impossible to get a boat in there because you have to climb down over riprap, these huge boulders, and for I won't say old guy, but a more experienced guy like me, getting into a canoe or something like that over those rocks, that would be foolhardy. So, but yeah, I wondered how Hopkinton can have their boat ramp for Hopkinton residents only, and we can't. So, but your explanation of it depends on what the definition of
Well, I
and
just checked the
regulations
list.
of.
So Lake Maspinock is a great pond, as is Wildwood Reservoir, Lake Wildwood
Okay.
Reservoir. So the other thing that occurs to me is that particular boat ramp may be limited to Hopkinton residents, but if there is another boat ramp, which is public, then the public would have access to Lake Maspinock.
Mhm.
What I
Yeah.
think that Sandy Beach requires a beach sticker.
Mhm.
So I guess it's not all that different from us, but I was thinking maybe it didn't have any state input and maybe it was just the Hopkinton Beach and it was all paid for by fees from Hopkinton residents, in which case they could have something that only allows Hopkinton residents.
So are you proposing that if possible, we limit Pratt Pond to residents?
The reason Pratt Pond has to have it on their beach is because we got state money to make Kiwanis Beach. I don't know that about Sandy Beach.
I don't believe we got state money for Kiwanis Beach, not initially.
Maybe not
Well,
initially, but we got
the
reason.
The
That,
recreation
we-
complex there, I think it actually had federal money.
Hmm.
Oh,
Okay. Back in,
That was,
I ran
right?
across some information about that when I was doing the timeline. So I don't think they can, the town could limit it just to residents. But you'd have to
Right, because-
research whatever agreement the town probably signed way back when they accepted that grant. That information still exists somewhere.
Yeah, and I've also heard that Pratt Pond has to be public because Mass Wildlife is stocking it.
Oh, that could be too. Yeah, they stock trout in there twice a year.
So I guess the point being is that there's undoubtedly some reason that Hopkinton can have a residents-only boat ramp, which may or may, we'd have to do some research to ascertain why that's the case. I'm assuming they wouldn't get away with it because it's such a public place, Lake Maspinock.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite places to go fishing at night, and then the cops chased us out of there one night. There's no one's supposed to be parking in the Sandy Beach parking lot after 8 p.m. and yeah, blah blah blah. A couple of me and my fishing buddy got chased out of there at 1 o'clock in the morning. We're fishing.
Okay, go to sleep.
Anyways, in relation to the regulations and stuff like that, the town manager asked about who's responsible for enforcing those regulations. Do we have any clue at all if there was ever a thought given to who's going to enforce those things?
Yeah, I mean, I believe the Upton Police should be authorized to enforce them. I do know that at one point there was at least a very short conversation about creating the role of a harbor master who would have some authority to, basically police the water body.
Does it come with a badge and a gun? And it can, I'll sign up for
Well,
that.
it very well could. I mean, I know I was online looking, and the harbor there's a whole association which trains.
Yeah.
And, I don't believe it's intended to cover basically interior ponds. It's basically seashore.
Yeah,
But
So-
there was a conversation at RecCom about it.
very interesting. Very interesting.
Yes, in terms of boats going too fast in the wrong direction, that's what I think. I believe it was also the police, because there's been instances in the past.
Yeah, because on that sign, I remember, traveling in a clockwise direction, no more than 2 water skiers. Who would we talk to at DPW, Bill, about having that sign recreated and re-erected without the for Upton residents only?
Well, somebody can easily make a sign. I think the bigger issue is ensuring that those regulations are what we want in place today.
Yes,
Because the town manager did request input on this, and the question in my mind is, do we respond to that, and how, what do we say to that? I'm taking notes as you're talking here, Bill, because as we start getting down into the weeds, we have to keep digging deeper and deeper and deeper. So there's no really easy brush stroke to say we do this, this, and that, and everything will be good.
So I don't believe that the proposed management plan addressed the issue of whether or not there should be boating restrictions or any other type of restrictions as regards recreation.
Right. I'm
protect
pretty
the-
sure they wanted to, they said, that's up to you guys to decide what you want to do with it.
I remember that you couldn't go within 150 feet of the swimming area. That was important.
And I think that's actually a state regulation, no boating within 150 feet of a swimming area. I'm pretty sure that's a
I think
state
you're right.
regulation.
I think you're right.
So, but we should,
Good to have. It is. I don't know if it should be us. I mean, when they made it the last time, there was no committee like this, so I don't know who made it. I remember when it happened though.
I mean, some communities have the bylaws that govern what can happen on great ponds in their communities, and would apply to other bodies of water which may not meet the definition of a great pond. But
now, Wildwood, anybody have any idea off the top of their head how big Wildwood is? I think it's like 30 acres, isn't it?
38,
Yeah,
I
you know what-
think. 38.
Okay, so that would fit in the definition of a great pond also then?
well, I'll check to see if it's on the list here. Consider maybe it shows up in Grafton. It does not appear.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
So conceivably, when they created a list of great ponds, Wildwood didn't exist. Lake Wildwood.
Wildwood would not exist without the dam. That's different than Pratt.
Yeah.
Pratt, the dam at Pratt augments an existing pond.
Right.
And
right.
same for Maspinock, I think. The dam there augments. Lake Wildwood, without the dam, it's just a river running through it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, because we know that if the dam wasn't there, it would just be a stream.
Yep. You sent us pictures of 1938 from
Yeah.
when the dam failed. That's just the coolest thing. That's just the coolest thing. Okay, the last thing we have on the agenda, moving on, is the benthic mapping. Um, the folks that we originally wanted to contract to do the benthic mapping, they're too busy this year. They're already booked up. Um, do we have any knowledge? And I tried looking up one this past week to see if there's other entities out there that do that kind of thing. And I may not have been looking in the, asking the right questions of Google and ask and things like that. Um, any idea of what we would look for in a company to do that sort of thing? There's benthic mapping outfits that do mapping in, basically in the ocean, in Cape Cod Bay and down Cape Cod and, all along the shoreline, but nothing inshore. Everything seems to be seaward. So if anybody comes up with something, I would, to help steer me in the right direction to try and find somebody else who could do that kind of thing.
Can
It
we
would
get
be
on
great.
their schedule for next season?
I'm going to ask Wendy about that. Yes. I think now might be the opportune time, and looking at midsummer, because I'd like to get it scheduled for the July, early August timeframe, because that seems to be when our friend keeps showing up.
Maybe
Yeah,
we
so
do it
if we
like,
can set something up for next season, I think we'd be,
maybe
Okay.
if we did June or June before, we don't want it when it's up, we want to see it when it's solid, right?
Well, it will never actually be solid, because the June water sample I took from the 12-foot level was quite green already. So that means that there's a lot of bacteria, a lot of algae already growing there. Now, what the trigger is for it to clump together like that and come to the surface, I have absolutely no idea. So it's not like we're looking at a doormat that's just kind of floating in the water column. It's uh, and how that would be mapped is, you know, beyond my capability of wrapping my head around. But trying to find somebody who does that kind of thing. And yeah, the money that we got in the budget this year, if we don't expense that by the end of June next year, that money goes back to the general fund.
I don't think so. That's a
No,
CPC.
Oh.
Allotment.
No, it wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't CPC funded. It was just a general article, and that doesn't go
That's
away.
right. Doesn't go
Oh.
away. Sorry,
So,
it's not CPC.
okay.
Why
It's not
wouldn't we do it, book them early for next year? If they're booked for this year, if we can book them now for next year before it breaks up, wouldn't that be advantageous?
Well, it would be, but I just want to throw something out. One thing that Wendy suggested when she said that they weren't able to do the work is, we went to Anna, and Anna suggested, well, said they couldn't do it either, but Anna suggested perhaps a diver. I thought that was actually a good idea if we could find a biologist diver to basically just swim some transects across the pond and determine the extent of the mat and take some nice high quality close up pictures of it, perhaps with an underwater camera. So I would ask, we could maybe ask Anna, and I could actually ask some folks where I used to work, if they have any recommendations for divers. Now, it might cost more than $2,500. That might be the problem, but diving can be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah,
the
'cause you-
man from VH say that he thought that the mat breaking up 2 years in a row might be evidence of it beginning to work its way out? In one of those emails from he talked about it.
Yeah,
Possibly I didn't
yeah.
understand that.
That was
Mhm.
Logan Bailey from MDPH, and he said that's a good sign. That could be just this year's version of the mat because not all the bacteria is going to die or the algae is going to die off at the same time. Um, I kind of think this is, a replenishing cycle of this algae that we're getting down there. Yeah, part of it's clumping together and coming to the surface, but there's still a good portion of algae that's down there that just, didn't clump together and rise. And
what the 12 level was going to show now that it's been breaking up. So you will go again at the beginning of when? When will you do that test again?
Which test? The algae sample that I take at the beach or the monthly? Oh,
Yep.
it's on the the schedule for every month. And what the variance is whether I take a sample at the 3-foot level or at the 12-foot level. Generally at P1, and P1 is the designation for the deep hole that's in Pratt Pond, for your education there, Gabby. I will probably take samples at P1 for the rest of the season at the 12-foot level. Because that's where it keeps showing up there, just like every sample we take. But we
Maybe
did
with the
take,
break- that would be interesting.
well, we did take one in February. Mike and I went out on the ice. We went out to P1 and we took a sample from the 12-foot level, and surprise, 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 Oscillatoria was not in there in February. So now whether it was a little deeper or whether, it had gone dormant for the winter, I just don't know. My knowledge base isn't that great, but I found it very interesting that Oscillatoria did not show up in the February sample, yet in the May and June, and I'm betting on the July sample that it's going to be in there, and probably in pretty good numbers.
Yeah, so I don't know if we've mentioned that, Troy. That's the really most concerning algae that we have seen. And the numbers were very high at one point last year, not the beach. And again, this year, right over by Dave's last week, quite high. And that's very worrying. We talked about if it stays high or if the venting mapping shows it a lot, what are we going to do? And I guess I was going to bring that up. We talked about alum, but there's also been an email that talked about some sort of sonar thing.
And yeah, I saw that, and I wonder how effective that would be in Pratt, because they talk about using the sonar to drive the mat, the algae down to a level below where sunlight is going to allow it to photosynthesize and reproduce. In a pond the size and shape of Pratt, I don't think that it would work, because even at 12 feet, there's got to be enough light getting down there in order for it to, block out the light. Now, there is another method that some places use, and that they call it benthic matting, where they actually take physical mats of material and basically cover a section of the pond, and which blocks the sunlight, and it kills the algae because they can't photosynthesize. But I don't know how effective that would be in Pratt. I don't think that would work at all. Okay. And that's all we have on the agenda. Anybody have anything that they would like to discuss that we didn't have on the agenda? Okay. So, we have a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and a
So
second.
moved.
All right. So we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. All right, and thank you for coming, everyone.